So this question wants us to draw a graph of this function here, y equals x cubed minus 3x minus 1. They've given us a hint about filling in a table of results so we can get the coordinates to plot, because every graph needs coordinates, and then draw the line through them. But you don't always get given the table, so watch for that. It does mean when you want to draw a graph you need one, so if they don't give you one, draw one out, fill some x values in. That makes sense according to the scale of the graph. Work out the numbers you need. So we've got to work out what these values are. It's a calculator paper, so basically for this one we're going to replace the x value with -1. Now the thing to be careful with calculators is you must always put the substituted values inside a bracket, because calculators work funny with powers. So -1 cubed, take away 3 times -1, take away 1. So that's how we're going to get the answer to go in there. So on our calculator then, we're going to do bracket -1. Now some calculators have a special negative key, which is like a bracket with a minus sign in it. You must press that to use your negative numbers. Or on this type of calculator there's a plus or minus, which changes things into negatives for us. So we did bracket -1, close the bracket, then cube that answer. We're then going to take away 3 times, now we're putting another negative number in, so bracket 1 negative, close the bracket, and then we're taking away 1. So we take away 1 equals. So the answer is just 1. And then we do the same with the other numbers. So we've got 0 cubed, don't need a bracket because it's just 0, not a negative. Take away 3 times 0, take away 1. So the answer is -1. Then we've got to fill in with 1.5. It's positive, so we don't need the bracket now. So it's 1.5 cubed. Take away 3 times 1.5, take away 1, so -2.125. Then we've got to do 2 cubed, take away 3 times 2, take away 1, which is 1. Okay, so we've got our answers in the table. Now we need to plot the graph. So what we're going to realise when we're plotting graphs is we read off the table the coordinates we've been given and we plot them carefully. So -2, -3, so -2, -3, -1.5, 0.125. So working out the scale of this graph, every little square is worth 0.1s. So we go to -1.5 and then we've got to go up to 0.1. Then we've got -1 and 1. Then we've got -0.5 and 0.375. Well, we'll be sensible and we'll use something close to 0.4. So -0.5, just under 0.4. 0 goes to -1. 0.5 goes to -2.4. 1 goes with -3. 1.5 goes with -2.1. And 2 goes with 1. So we've plotted the crosses as accurately as we can using the scale of the graph. And the question does say draw the graph. So in other words, we must make sure we don't just leave the points there, we actually do draw the graph. Now we should freehand, without taking a pen off the paper, go through every cross as accurately as we can, following the general trend. Now we should realise this is a curved relationship, so we make sure we're drawing the best line we can using a curve. Now again, we should recognise that this is called cubic because it's got power 3 in it, x cubed, and all cubic graphs either do that shape or they do the kink and out again. Basically they come in from the negative, out through the positive, in from the negative, out from the positive, but they might do a kink in the middle, depends on your function values. So that'll give us the marks for the table filled in correctly and the graph drawn accurately. The question goes on though, and it says use your graph to estimate the solution to this equation. Now what we've got to realise is that this equation was drawn on the graph as that equals y. So really what they're saying is, when does the graph equal 0? that's going to be the y answer when y is 0. Now what we should realise is that y is 0 at this point, and this point. So every value here of x creates a graph answer of 0. Well, that's what this equation is telling us. We want the graph answer to be 0. So we need to read off these 3 points. Now it's only worth 1 mark, but they won't give you the mark unless you read all 3 off. So again, looking at the graph carefully in our scale, going across in point ones. So this answer is about 1.9. This answer is negative 0.4. And this answer is negative 1.5. Again, as long as you show what you're doing, the examiners read off from your graph to make sure that these answers match what you've got on your graph. So they do what's called a follow through. So that's drawing a cubic graph, filling the table results, using our calculator carefully with negative numbers inside brackets when we're substituting, drawing the graph, but remember to draw the curve as well, not just put the points on. And then when we want to solve an equation, whatever number's here is the y number. So we find out where y is 0, and on this case it was the cross point on the x-axis. If they'd have said this is equal to 3 for argument's sake, then, oh sorry, I wouldn't do 3 because it's not on the graph at the moment. So say they said what's happening when it's equal to 0.5. Then basically we'd have to go to 0.5, we would draw at 0.5, so that's when y equals 0.5. So the answers would be reading off there as the x number, there is the x number, and there is the x number. So that's how you can interpret graphs and draw them.